To understand life, we must first understand biology. Mark, when you hear the word biology, what comes to your mind?
That's a great starting point. Biology is the branch of science that deals with the study of living organisms and their life processes. In fact, the word biology comes from two Greek words. Bios means life, and logos means study. In short, biology is the scientific study of life. It includes plants, animals, humans, and even microscopic organisms we cannot see. So Susan, have you ever wondered how humans first began to understand what life actually is?
To answer that, we need to go back in time, long before laboratories and microscopes existed. Early humans observed nature directly. They saw plants grow, animals hunt, humans age, and eventually, life come to an end. So, life was explained using natural forces, spirits, and gods.
In its earliest form, biology relied more on observation and belief than experimentation. For a long time, humans also believed that everything in nature existed mainly for human use.
This way of thinking is called the Anthropocentric view, where humans are seen as the center of life. But as science progressed, this view slowly began to change.
Scientists started asking better questions and performing careful experiments. Plants, animals, and even microscopic organisms were studied as independent systems governed by natural laws.
This shift gave rise to modern biology based on evidence, logic, and experimentation. With this background, let's ask the most important question. What exactly do we mean when we say something is alive?
Biology identifies certain defining characteristics that clearly separate living organisms from non-living things. Let's start with the most basic one, the structural basis of all life.
All living organisms are made of one or more cells. This is called cellular organization. Whether it's a tiny bacterium or a large human, life begins at the cellular level. That's why the cell is called the basic structural and functional unit of life.
But structure alone cannot define life. Living cells are active. They are constantly carrying out chemical reactions. All living organisms show metabolism, which is the sum of all chemical reactions occurring inside the body. Some reactions build complex molecules. These are anabolic reactions. Others break down complex molecules into simpler ones. These are catabolic reactions. For example, proteins, carbohydrates, and fats are complex molecules made from smaller building blocks.
Another key feature of life is growth, but growth in living organisms is special. Living organisms grow from within, by increasing their number of cells and cell size. This is different from non-living objects, which increase in size by external accumulation of material. For example, crystal growth, rust formation on iron, or deposition of dust on surfaces.
Therefore, growth alone cannot be considered a defining characteristic of life. Living organisms also have the ability to reproduce. Reproduction helps maintain continuity of life.
But reproduction is not an absolute defining feature, as some living organisms, like mules and worker bees, do not reproduce yet. They live.
Another important property of life is responsiveness to stimuli. For example, when you touch something hot, you immediately pull your hand away.
This ability to sense and respond to stimuli is a characteristic of all living organisms.
In biology, this responsiveness is often described as consciousness. Over long periods, living organisms also show evolution.
Evolution occurs at the population level, leading to variation and adaptation across generations.
Therefore, evolution is not a defining characteristic of an individual organism, but a feature of living populations. Here's a common question. Fire grows, spreads, and uses energy. Is fire alive?
No. Fire lacks cellular organization, biological metabolism, and the ability to evolve. So despite appearing active, fire is not considered a living organism.
So to summarize, biology is the scientific study of life and living organisms.
Living organisms show characteristics such as cellular organization, growth, reproduction, responsiveness, and evolution. Among these, metabolism is the defining characteristic of life, as all living organisms carry out metabolic reactions.
Understanding these ideas helps us clearly distinguish living from non-living.
And this is just the beginning of our journey into biology.